City Power has announced it'll implement load reduction in Johannesburg to prevent a grid collapse. The measure, which is effective from today, will affect several high-density areas during peak times. That's from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then again at 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. This decision comes after extensive efforts, we're told, to encourage residents to use electricity sparingly. The South African National Energy Department Institute's, Samson Mampweli also warned that the grid is at risk due to illegal connections. Let's unpack this further, though, with City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena, who joins us via our video link this morning. Great to have you on the program, Isaac. Thanks very much indeed for making time. As I mentioned there in our introduction, not every place or not all City Power customers will be affected by this. Let's talk about the affected areas and how you came about essentially deciding on those.
Good morning, Ayanda, and good morning to the viewers at home. Yes, we are not going to plunge the whole of the city into darkness. It's only identified areas that we have over the months been monitoring the consumption levels there and also the behavior around the usage of electricity by our customers. And as such, we have arrived at this hard decision to basically implement load reduction if we are to basically save the electricity network. Our network is currently at critical levels due to the continuous demands, which is higher than the system can basically withstand. As a result, load reduction is being implemented in areas where the load actually exceeds the designated maximum capacity of our systems. Over 80 areas have been identified for this program, and they are grouped into 6 blocks for load reduction, so which will not exceed more than 2.5 hours at a go. The schedule is being implemented during peak hours, as you rightfully pointed out in your intro. That is between 4 to 10 in the morning, and also 4 to 10 in the evening. Those are the times when we've seen much increase in terms of the demand for electricity. But these areas are also the areas where we've got a lot of illegalities happening. You did mention the fact that illegal connections are also contributing factors to this because of the increased demand that we are basically suffering. And also those people that are actually not paying for electricity or where there is electricity theft, but also even where we've got affluent areas that are using multiple geysers and so forth. So we're going to implement this to our ripple relay systems to ensure that we can control some of that consumption. So we'll switch off those geysers without even customers actually being aware remotely, so that we can be able to preserve some of this electricity.
Yeah, that I suppose speaks to the next question I was going to ask. But before that, Isaac, I'm just trying to get a sense of, generally speaking, where these areas are. Are you finding that, these communities that use high levels of energy are more in affluent areas? Is it, perhaps in the informal settlements? Is it a mixture of both around the city of Johannesburg? Who typically are the culprits?
The high usage is actually across the city, but you find that, like I gave example, Malberton Substation, we've got a high consumption there, but it's because of the amount of, geysers that are connected to that substation, to that system. And as such, it's one of those that have been earmarked for load limiting through the ripple relays. But yes, you also have situations where the substations are under threat because of illegal connections, because of issues of capacity, overcapacity, and most of those are in non-affluent areas. And those are the areas where we have, over the past few months, been monitoring, but also creating awareness to the customers to say, you really need to assist City Power here. Otherwise, we may actually get to a point where we embark upon this load reduction. And yes, areas like Alexandra, we've seen in recent weeks they've been tripping. There was a protest on Friday or Thursday because of the trips at Vasco da Gama switching station. And those trips are due to the overloading of that system in that area. There's been explosions of these transformers. There's been explosions of pole-mounted transformers as well due to the overloading of the network. And as such, if we are not going to save this infrastructure by load reducing some of this, we basically may actually end up with the total collapse of the network. And as such, we're basically going to do this to certain distributors that we know that are really affected. Illegal connection is also one of those. If you look at the substations that are targeted in the south, especially in the Lenasia area, most of those are because of the informal settlements connected to those systems, the transformers and substations, and we're trying to control the consumption in those areas. And you know that informal settlements really, it's not a problem of city power, it's a problem of human settlements that city power actually has to bear the brunt for, because there are a lot of people coming through looking for economic opportunities. They set up informal settlements, then they go look for the nearest electricity connection point, and they steal electricity. So those are some of the areas that we will be targeting through this load reduction.
Sure. City Power is calling it load reduction. South Africans, of course, are more familiar with the idea of load shedding. How are these two things different? I mean, you spoke, for example, about switching off people's geysers remotely. If I find myself in a community where I am being impacted by load reduction, what should I expect to see in my house, so to speak, between these hours?
So load shedding, it's a national issue. It's a national issue where Eskom is in charge of. It's not a city power problem, basically. And it's Eskom basically trying to protect the national system from a total collapse. And it's really, targeting the whole country and even ourselves within the city of Johannesburg. We don't even have control over load shedding. We'll be told by Eskom that you need to shed at least 100 megawatts, that is stage 1, or 200 megawatts, which is stage 2, and so forth. And that's what we basically need to do. In this regard, it's a localized, targeted demand management of electricity on identified customers. And we're not switching off substations per se, but we're switching off distributors that are really under threat from the customers that are connected to those distributors. So we're just reducing consumption for a few hours until the situation subsides, and then we can be able to put other customers back on. So in terms of the switching off of the geysers and what you will see and what you won't see. So in terms of the geysers, switching off the geysers and what you can see in your house and what you can't see, it's really you basically won't even feel, because currently, as you are sitting here in the studio, your geyser at home is working and you are not there. And when we see that it is actually reaching certain levels of discomfort, that's when we will be able to switch it off. But you will still have warm water inside that geyser, and that's why we are saying you're not able to feel it. But you can watch TV, you can be able to cook, you can be able to do other things, but the geysers will be off. Remember that the geyser alone contribute to the 50% of the electricity demand in each household. So if we are able to kill the geyser alone, you are able to basically save 50%, and that goes a long way in assisting us in terms of conserving our electricity.
All right, fair enough. There have obviously been perceptions about the timing of all of this, Isaac, and I'm sure you must have heard already the narratives that are out there. We certainly put out a call to some of our viewers who believe that this is all happening because the elections are done and dusted, and now it's back to regular programming, as they put it. I'm sure you must have considered this yourselves before sending out this message. And the question perhaps that I'm asking is, to what extent does the perception compromise or complicate your ability to do what needs to be done in instances where you do need to protect the grid, like is the case at this point?
Yeah, indeed. I think the timing is really compromising our efforts in trying to do what is really right. In fact, if I can tell you, we were supposed to have started with this thing around April, but we realized that there are obviously developments within the country that we may have to give a chance to, so that we don't actually find ourselves in that kind of narratives that were out there. The narrative that is out there is that load shedding will come back. Load shedding is still suspended, as Eskom has communicated, and even within the city of Johannesburg is still suspended. But we find ourselves, especially now that we are in the peak periods of winter where the demand is really shooting through the roof. And we really need to do something to ensure that we deal with some of this. We have seen also an increase in the informal settlements within the city of Johannesburg, in the hijacked buildings within the city of Johannesburg, where electricity theft is really high. And as such, you find ourselves that we are exceeding even the regularized demand capacity that were given by NERSA and ESCOM. And we've been paying penalties about on those exceeded demand capacity. And as such, we are finding ourselves in a really uncomfortable situation as City Power. And unfortunately, this is winter also, and this is where the demand is really high, and we are not able to postpone it any further. Unfortunately, it happened just after the elections, but really it's got nothing to do with the elections. Like I say, we were supposed to have actually done it earlier around April when winter started to basically hit us.